Well, I'm sure you'll want to read his research. It's in the American Behavioral Sciences.
Let's take it back even before that. I just learned lately reading a great book by Colonel Fletcher Prouty. And do you know who he is?
Nope, that one escapes me.
Okay, did you see Oliver Stone's movie JFK?
Yes, of course.
Okay, do you remember when Costner had to go to Washington and meet with the guy in black, Mr. X, Donald Sutherland?
Yes.
That's Fletcher Prouty.
Okay.
Donald Sutherland was playing Fletcher Prouty in that film. Well, Fletcher Prouty wrote a book in 1996 called JFK about the assassin. He'll take you back even farther than that. He claims, and he was right there, right after World War II, that the entire Cold War was set up by Roosevelt, Churchill, Stalin, and Chiang Kai-shek.
Why would they do that?
Well, because the elites, as Prouty refers to them, the people that are above them, whomever they may be, got terrified at the end of World War II because of the nuclear bombs. And they realized that if there was a third world war, it could well be Armageddon, that we could destroy the planet, which would mean they would die too. So the meeting took place, according to Prouty, and it was determined at that point that all wars from then on would be held in third world countries. They would be done with no objective for an army to meet to declare victory, which look back the last 50 years, they all fall into that. And just prior to the invasion, or just prior to the dropping of the bombs, we were preparing to invade Japan like we did Normandy. So they moved a huge amount of military equipment and armament to Okinawa. Well, then when they dropped the bombs, obviously they didn't have to use it all. Fletcher Prouty tells in his book what happened to all that stuff. You know what happened to it?
I haven't a clue.
They sent half of it to Korea and half of it to Ho Chi Minh. They were already preparing for the Korean War and then the Vietnam War.
You know, it's funny because all these guys act in their own self-interest rather than in the interest of their constituencies, don't they? Jesse Ventura is the guest. American Conspiracies is the book. The first caller is Cassandra. She's joining us from the United Kingdom. Cassandra, welcome to News Talk Online on the Pal Talk News Network.
Thank you very much, Gary, and hello, Jesse. Great to hear you.
How are you, Cassandra?
I'm very well, thank you. You said that you weren't sure about the government being truthful, but there's a huge difference between being truthful and being responsible for something. The question I'd like to ask is, there was the 911 Commission that examined all the facts that had happened behind this. Have you actually gone through that in minute detail? And were there any of the... Yes, the 9/11.
I studied it fairly well. The one interesting thing that you need to know about the 9/11 Commission is that they received no documents whatsoever from the NSA. The only thing they went on CIA. If they had looked at, and that was withheld from them by Zelikow, who was running the whole thing out of the White House. Well, if they would have saw NSA documents, they would have found out that bin Laden, all the way in May, they knew that bin Laden could attack this country. They knew it in May, and they thought it was going to happen in July. They ramped up for it, and then nothing happened, and then subsequently it happened in September. What I'm saying is if the U.S. government wasn't involved in it, they certainly knew about it and allowed it to happen.
And also, Cassandra, in the book you will see that the Israelis and the French also confirmed that there was an attack imminent. And the part about it that I found most chilling, Jesse Ventura, was when you said that one of those warnings, I believe from the French, was specifically that Lower Manhattan was going to be the target.
Yep. And yet our government chose, for one reason or another, and this we'll never know, why did they ignore all that?
Yeah, exactly.
Was it all ignored? I believe it was ignored to allow it to happen so that then they could carry on their agenda and invade Iraq and all the rest of this stuff in the Middle East. Plus, saddle us with the Patriot Act, which takes away half of our rights.
Can I ask a quick follow-up
yes,
there,
Cassandra.
Gary? Can I ask you, because I know that following on from the 9/11 attacks, there was the attack in London on 7/7. And there are some theories that come forward that also was a conspiracy. Have you looked into that? Do you think there's a tie-up between the two of them, and that they were both conspiracies by the separate governments?
I know really nothing about it, but I can venture a spitball opinion. I would think they're as closely tied as we were with the UK, and as tight as George Bush was with Tony Blair. It wouldn't surprise me.
Tony Blair, let's put it nicely, was joined at the hip with George Bush. The Brits might say his nose was stuck up into a certain part of Bush's anatomy, so all that is possible. Andy in the United Kingdom, another call from across the pond. Welcome to News Talk Online on the Pal Talk News Network.
Hi, Gary. Hi, Jesse. What I want to know is, right now, I'm fine. What do you think about this Iranian guy, what's it, Ahmadinejad or whatever, saying that 9/11 is a fabrication? Now, if that is true, right, then of course, right, we're gonna have real trouble, right? Because all the Iranians will say that, oh, look, yeah, he is the only one who's telling the truth. You know what I mean? So I don't know whether it's such a good idea. But after all, right, we have to know the truth. Even though, right, if it means that Ahmadinejad, mouthing his mouth off, has got a little a little bit of idea. But of course, I think he must have looked at your pages or something, isn't it? I'm sure, because they Iranian leaders got
the way I look at this whole situation is, look at it this way. You've got Afghanistan and our military's in there. You've got Iraq and the U.S. military's in there, or all of our militaries are there. What country lies in between both of them? Iran. So I would not be surprised at all within the next 2 years if you see a major confrontation between the U.S. and Iran, because the writing's already on the table for it.
By the way, Andy, you'll be interested when you buy the book, as I'm sure you will, American Conspiracies by Jesse Ventura, and this is on the recent public record. The Bush administration deliberately misled and then claimed that they didn't, but it's on the record, when they said that there was a tie-in between al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein, who was once the boy of the United States of America. Let's go to Chuck in Los Angeles.
Something else.
Jesse.
Osama bin Laden was at one time one of our boys, too, back in the 80s.
And of course, as many people have asked this question, including people who I have interviewed from the FBI who were involved in the post-9/11 investigation, they wanted to interview the members of the bin Laden family who were spirited out of the United States when everybody else was stuck on the ground because it was a ground stop for all commercial flights, but the Saudis got out. And there were investigators from the FBI who wanted to talk to these folks and never had an opportunity to do so. And that's just disgusting as far as Yeah, why did we allow them to leave? Exactly right. I'm sorry? Yes, of course or Dick Cheney, probably. I don't know that George Bush was much in control.
Were the ones that allowed them to leave like they did.